Happy New Year, everyone. It's an honor to stand again before you on this first meeting of the Council 2024. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather for this council meeting, we humbly seek your wisdom and guidance as we go into this new year. Grant us the discernment to make decisions that honor your will and serve the best interest of our community. May our discussions be conducted with kindness and empathy and a spirit of cooperation. Help us to listen deeply to each other and to consider the well-being of all those whom our decisions affect. We ask you, Father, to bless our mayor, Paul Yanez, our council members, Deborah Lewis, and Brett Jones, and Ken Lambert, and Doug Begonia, our city manager, Josh Pinero, our Economic Development Director, Stacy Elms, our treasurer, Lucy Lawrence. Bless all of our city staff. Father, we pray that you'd provide for all of their needs, both professionally and personally. May they continue to prosper and be in good health. We thank you for each of them and their commitment to serve our community. Bless this meeting with your presence and grant us the strength to work together for the greater good for all of our community. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
All right, please be seated. Your button was doing its own thing. All right, can you get a roll call, please? Here, and we have a quorum. Let's move on to item 4, consideration of the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Jones.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Lambert.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Let's move on to presentations. Gonna go mobile. All right. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. All right, so the first certificate of recognition is for the City of Los Banos 2023 Employee of the Year. And it is my honor to present this. He's not here tonight, to Police Sergeant Jesus Paris. And accepting for Sergeant Paris is Chief Reyna. All right, next up is Javier Maganda here. He tried to duck out. I saw that. All right. Javier, Maintenance Worker 2, Parks and Recreation. In recognition of your outstanding performance and dedicated service to the City of Los Banos for being named Employee of the Month, December 2023. Congratulations. Take a picture. Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Proclamation of recognition. Kathy Ballard, come on up. It's up to you. I mean, if you don't want it, I guess we can do something else with it.
I want it as long as you put me back on the committee.
All right. Well, one thing at a time. One thing at a time. All right. Whereas Kathy Ballard was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on January 19, 2022. And whereas Kathy Ballard faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. And whereas Kathy Ballard was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee and continually provided her support to the goals and mission of the committee, whereas Kathy Ballard fulfilled her term as member of the Los Banos Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on December 31st, 2023. Now therefore be proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Kathy Ballard for her dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. Congratulations, Kathy. Take a photo. All right, Deborah DJ Barcelos. Want to sit on this side? Whatever you want. It's your award. All right. Whereas Deborah DJ Barcelos was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on January 20th, 2021. Whereas Deborah DJ Barcelos faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Measure P Committee. Whereas Deborah DJ Barcelos was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee and continually provided her support to the goals and missions of the committee. Whereas Deborah DJ Barcelos fulfilled her term as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on December 31st, 2023. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Deborah DJ Barcelos for dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee. Congratulations.
Second one.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you're welcome. Leonardo Cortez. Not here? I see you, John. All right. This one is for Leonardo Cortez, Parks and Recreation Commission member. Whereas Leonardo Cortez was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on January 19, 2022. Whereas Leonardo Cortez faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission. Whereas Leonardo Cortez was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission and continually provided his support to the goals and mission of the commission. Whereas Leonardo Cortez fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on December 31st, 2023. Now therefore be proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Leonardo Cortez for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission. We'll make sure that he gets that. Mr. Spivak. All right. Whereas John Spivak was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on January 19, 2022, whereas John Spivak faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission, and whereas John Spivak was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the commission, whereas John Spivak fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on December 31st, 2023, now, therefore, it be proclaimed that the mayor and the city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend John Spivak for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission. Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I know he's going to make you take a photo. All right. This is the proclamation recognizing Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15, 1929, and made a lasting impression as a key leader in the American Civil Rights Movement during the 1950s and 60s. Whereas during speeches and rallies in our nation's capital and throughout America, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. promoted his dream of a nation where everyone is treated as equals and is judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And whereas people throughout the world continue to look to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s example as a model on human relations and his efforts in the daily struggle for civil human rights have continued since his assassination in 1968 and will continue until his dream of absolute freedom, equality, and justice for all is finally realized. Whereas the city of Los Banos is proud to honor and celebrate the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., now therefore be proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby recognize Monday, January 15, 2024, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the city of Los Banos and encourage all citizens to celebrate and remember the many accomplishments of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. All right. Moving on to item 6, the public forum. Members of the public may address city council members on any item of public interest that's within the jurisdiction of the city council, includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted in the council chamber's information table on the back. At this time, I'd like to invite the public to come forward and speak, and just a reminder to silence your cell phones.
Good evening, Julie Creighton, resident of Los Banos. I have many topics I'd like to bring up, but I can only choose one tonight due to the time limit for speaking at the forum. Tonight, the voting block of 4 on the council is once again determined to pass the professional services contract for Imagine Way More LLC in order to control this council's media presence to reflect themselves in a favorable light. I have spoken with this young man who owns this company a few times, and I am impressed with him and his innovative company, but I am not impressed with this price tag. I requested and received through a public records request, shockingly, the other 4 bids that were submitted for the request for quotes for these media services, but were not considered. 2 of those bids came in at close to $2,000 less, but were not explored any further. Also, we were told incorrectly that 1 bid came in for around $40,000 per month, but apparently the person responsible for reviewing those bids did not comprehend that that price was given for a year's worth of services, not as a month-to-month fee. The second issue with this contract, which we can all guess will be passed through a predictable 4-1 vote, was a video put out by Imagine Way More that contained a racial slur which one council person found offensive, since it was a slur that was directed towards her race. This video has been since removed for public viewing, but I saw it as well as the council member who mentioned this. To continue to still consider this contract shows a blatant disregard for the concern that was brought up by Councilwoman Lewis. If the mayor and council persons who are up for re-election soon think that this is a way to campaign for re-election by portraying themselves in a positive light using social media fluff, I strongly suggest they use their own funds to hire this company and to promote their re-elections and not our money, the taxpayers' money. I can look around our city and see many, many other ways this $7,500 a month could be put to better use so that the taxpayers who do supply this money could possibly stand behind. If the council approves this contract tonight, it further proves the point that they think taxpayer dollars are their own personal piggy bank, and no matter what the taxpaying constituents think, they will continue to spend recklessly with no regard for the public's right to input how tax dollars should be spent.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Chester Haley. I am a field representative for the North Cal Carpenters Union. I'm here tonight to request the City of Los Banos to adopt labor standards for future projects. One labor standard would be the use of a state-sponsored apprenticeship program. Because of increased wages and lack of student debt, construction apprenticeships can be a better option for many young people than a traditional undergraduate program. Construction apprenticeships programs are proven escalators to middle class, training tens of thousands of construction workers every year at no cost to taxpayers. The policies that require the utilization of apprentices develops a pool of skilled laborers in the local area who can work on future projects. Another great labor standard will be the requirement that contractors provide health care. 1 out of 4, or 26% of construction workers in California lack health insurance. These workers are sometimes reliant on emergency rooms that are already understaffed and over capacity. Policies that require contractors to offer their workers family health care will raise standards in the construction industry, while also ensuring that employers who do offer health care can compete on a level playing field. We at the North Cal Carpenters look forward to having a detailed conversation with each of you. Thank you for your time tonight, and I will leave my contact information with the clerk. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Ann McCauley, Los Banos resident. My comment is, I believe that it refers to the same company, Imagine Way More. If I'm wrong with this contractor, then the contractor that does use TikTok is the one that I'm referring to, but I believe it's this one. At a couple meetings ago, I spoke with one of the council members, and you know, I don't know that anybody takes TikTok very damn seriously, but I do. I won't get on it. I won't open anything that's been linked to it. You know, we're people that get into TikTok, that information goes right to the Chinese government. And if we don't think it doesn't, then we're really fools. I really think that anytime the city does any business with any contractor or puts anything out that's going to link to TikTok, I think we're asking for trouble. You know, for some people that say, well, we don't really know if it's that bad. You know, how much does it take for us to wake up? China's no fool. We are the ones that are just over here taking social media so nonchalantly. I mean, I can remember a time when everybody was, I wouldn't do it because I thought it was stupid, but when people have to tell you what they did the last 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes of their day, come on, do they have a life? Do they need everybody to know their personal business? And by the same token, I think any advertising or any social media that deals with city business linked to TikTok, I think that's a bad road. And I think if we're going to do business with any contractor, they need to eliminate that one off of their purview of wherever they advertise. I think we can do better than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Cami Avalar. I'm here to update you on the homeless, which I'm sure you are well aware of. We do seem to be growing in population. I notice them in a lot of areas now where they weren't before. They're still behind my house. We have had discussions about them being moved. They are still there. I took out my Christmas decorations this year, and when I opened up one of the boxes, there was some newspaper that I had used to wrap. And on the front page was, Mr. Mayor, you talking about the homeless situation a year ago. And nothing has changed from that point. It's still exactly the same. I have some pictures.
You just want to give them to the clerk. You want to just give them to the clerk.
I do see that that it was requested an update on the homeless motel that we're looking at, and I really look forward to seeing that update or hearing that update. The other thing I have a comment about is the, I think it's item 12, talking about the funds being specified for the old police building. It doesn't say what they're specified for. It has $8 million that you'd like to put aside, but the Exhibit A only goes on to explain in very good detail the different funds, but it doesn't say what the plans are for those buildings. We just finished a brand-new police building. I'd like to know what $8 million is going to go to on the old buildings at this point, and maybe if things aren't going so well with our homeless motel, maybe we could put some of that money there instead. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of people have already said most of the stuff I was going to say. I wanted to bring up, I do agree with the lady in the back in regards to not using Imagine Way more for campaigning. I think it should be anyone who does any of these videos should be heads of certain staff that's doing it, like Public Works or, Stacy's department or whatever department it is. It shouldn't be the mayor or the council because they're always up for election. So, and I'm assuming in talking to Stacy, these films are going to be something that is used to promote the city. So I think it should be people that don't turn over a lot and have city employees or whoever do the vocalizing for it. I do notice that it was a lot higher. I don't know if that is because they were going to offer internships for the students. I had a meeting with Dr. Marshall and Stacy in regards to hopefully using the employees, the students, they're my employees, but they are students, to help them out with the videos. And yes, I have seen good that has happened in the city. I have seen the work in the parks and rec, and I have seen, the trees trimming and everything else. But you have to look at it through my point of view. My husband thinks I'm the person that invented copper wire because I stretch a penny so far. And that's just the way I am. I don't like to see tons of money spent constantly and keeps going. And so you worry. And that's what I've been doing. And I had concerns in regards to like $15,000 for Christmas lights. It's a little pricey for me. And so it makes me nervous. So just so you know where I'm coming from, I do appreciate the work that's been done. It's just a lot at one time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Even though some things have been addressed, I'll just second it or restate something. And this is very informative coming to these meetings, super informative, and I am encouraging other people to start coming because I think it's very important for everyone to know what happens. When I see the check register amount, is that check register available for public viewing to see how the $2,658,000 was spent and over what time? It's something I'll have to ask and find out about. I know you can't tell me that now. I will also say I don't believe we should be using TikTok considering the federal government doesn't allow it. I do think that $7,500 a month is way too much money to be spending on social media to promote our city. If we want to attract companies to our city, then use that $7,500 and clean our city up. Get the stray animals off the streets, do something with the homeless population, and spend that money in a better way. It's a huge amount of money to be spent on social media. Again, yeah, the police department, I don't know what it's going to be renovated into. The motel purchase, I'm not sure if it's the same motel that goes around with people saying that the motel on Pacheco near the Little Caesars Pizza that was renovated was done for the homeless population. It's not the one? Okay. Well, that's what people say, that the motel that was renovated for the homeless has already been pretty much destroyed. So that may not be true. That just might be a rumor that's going around, which is a good reason to provide more information on what happens than rumors can be quashed. And then lastly, I just want to restate again, I thought I clarified this before, but I'll just again try to clarify. For the Animal Advisory Committee that several people have been asking for, it's not to follow along with the building of the shelter. It's something that's needed to help the crisis that we are in. This town is in a crisis, and every town across the state and every state across the country is in a crisis with animal overpopulation. And if you can't do something about it, which, nothing's been done, get help. Get a group of people who can work together and come up with some solutions to try to help. There was a recent post on Facebook from someone, and there are a lot of people involved in animal rescue and animal welfare on social media, but there was a recent post asking, can we get people together to just come together, provide a source of, like a list of resources, and make it available to people so that everybody doesn't have to keep asking, where can I get my kitten spayed? Where can I get my dog fixed? What do we do about this litter of animals being dumped everywhere? What could we do? Could we get people together and come up with a solution? And I answered that post and I said, an animal advisory committee could do just that. It would be a group of people who could gather up the resources, put it in a list, and be there for people to call, email, come to a meeting, and get answers. I mean, it's something that needs to be done. So it's not just to follow along with the shelter, but it's needed now. It's going to be needed again. It's going to continuously be needed in this town and every town, like I said. It's a crisis, and it's not going to go away, but there are resources out there. People just don't know about them, and they don't know who to call and ask. And if they call the city, I don't know what kind of answer they will get, but the city isn't probably, spending a whole amount of time on preparing a list of resources for what people can do when they don't know where to get their kitten spayed or their puppy or whatever. How do we stop this? I don't understand why we can't have a committee. And I'm going to start asking more people to come in and ask for that committee. And so I'm really hoping that you'll just do it. But if it takes 100 or 200 people to come in here and ask for it, then I'm hoping that's what we're going to get.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, fellow residents, good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope they had a fantastic New Year, Christmas with their families. TikTok is definitely an issue, a safety concern. My work at dealing with transnational organized crime, with federal government, federal agencies, it is a definite problem, and it's directly linked with the Chinese Communist government. So please consider that in your decision making. The new police building that the taxpayers have paid for, one of the reasons for that police building and the size of it and the scope of it was to consolidate all the various police buildings and departments into one consolidated area to assist in the providing services to our residents, safety of our officers, ensuring the evidence and all that has to do with police is secured. Really would like to know what we're spending the money on for these buildings. And again, it's the process that we're not being involved in the decision making. We don't have an idea as to why we're doing it. We're just spending the money. Again, if this were your private company, I don't think that you would spend this kind of money, but because it isn't your money, you're spending quite a bit of it. But more importantly, have the citizens participate in that decision-making process so they're clearly involved with it and they understand the rationale for it. Lastly, the Animal Advisory Commission. Again, as previously stated, it's not to monitor so much the building, but to provide information and resources and provide a network within the vast network of individuals out there and organizations that provide services and information and links to grants, et cetera, to help the animal population. Again, especially this time, these animals, they're freezing out there, they're cold, they're wet, they get sick, they pass bacteria, they pass infection, and infects people, all animals, regardless if they're stray or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year. Something that I want to let everybody know is when I think of the new year, I think about the good things that I have and not the bad things that should be or shouldn't be. I count my blessings in what I have. I know the things, I write a lot in social media about the history of Los Banos, but specifically buildings and homes, and the feedback of replies and people that look at the history and enjoy it. But I call myself a little bit of a historian. I know that things change. Across the street used to be a M&E church, and now it's a Wells Fargo. So changes do happen, and sometimes they happen for the best. One thing, to take a little left turn, one thing I do want to point out, we all know the history of the Los Banos Fair and the parade. Our parade was known to be even better than the Rose Bowl parade. It was a 4-day event, and something I'd like to mention is that one of the days, which was on Friday, they would actually close down I Street, a portion of I Street, the 600 block of the 500 block of I Street, they would close. And there would be just a big old party out on I Street. A portion of the day was a day where there would be a group that would be responsible for pulling guys that didn't have beards on. And there'd be a temporary little jail, and they'd get jailed, they'd pay a fine, and they'd get out. But it was a day on a Friday, on May Day, where downtown celebrated and had a party. So I know that things change, and things will change downtown. But there are good events of the history that can be brought back to the current and will help build the economic and development of our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, I'll close the public forum. Let's move into item 7, consideration of the approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless removed from the agenda by a city council member. Have any items requesting to be removed or discussed? Did you, what's that? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Getting ahead of myself.
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 242283 through 242639 in the amount of $2,658,535.58. Minutes for the November 15th, 2023 City Council meeting. City Council Resolution number 6718, authorizing the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the Agreement for Contract Services with Synagro WWT Inc. for the dredging, dewatering, transportation, and end use of recirculation channel solids at the wastewater treatment plant and amend the 2023-24 fiscal year budget to increase expenditures in the wastewater fund 502-433-100-231 in the amount of $1,497,724.52. City Council Resolution Number 6719, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract with Perfection Painting Corp. For exterior painting of the Los Banos Community Center project in the amount of $46,000 and a project contingency of $6,900, and amend the fiscal year 2023-24 budget by increasing the appropriation amount in the recreation account 100-451-240-205 in the amount of $6,900. City Council Resolution Number 6720, accepting public improvements for South Point at Regency Park, Phase 10, Stonefield Home, Inc. City Council Resolution Number 6721, adopting a revised budget for the 23-24 fiscal year as it pertains to fire department overtime in the amount of $156,004. And those items are to be approved as submitted.
All right, thank you. Now I'll ask the question. Anybody on council want to remove any items for discussion? Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to remove item 7, C as in Charles, D as in David, and F as in Frank for discussion, and items C and D for a separate vote.
C and D for separate votes.
Yes.
All right, anyone else? No? Seeing none. Okay, so let's start with item C. For this, we'll go to our interim public works director, city engineer Lims. Councilman, do you have a question or?
Oh, I thought he was, you
Oh,
you
my
referred
bad.
to
No.
him, I'm sorry.
I'm ready for it.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I'll give a little bit of background here before I ask my questions. On October 4th, this project came to us with a request for $1,997,902.53. And in addition, $80,300 for Provost and Pritchard's construction management. In that report, it just gave us some basic information about what was going to be done. And when we received this most current report in our packet for the same project, it's now asking for an increase of $497,724.52 out of a designated account number. And in that report, it indicates that I would assume, from the first evaluation, there were 1,900 dry tons of solid waste that needed to be removed. However, I didn't see that information in the first report. And now, with that being said, it says that the 1,900 dry tons of solid waste that needed to be removed was only the top 2 feet of the bio waste to come out of that was going to be taken out of the channel. But in discussion and thorough examination by city staff and the consultant company, which is Provost and Pritchard, and also Signagro, that there's been a realization that there needs to be another 1,760 dry tons of material that needs to be removed, which is going to bring the total, bring the total for this particular project with today's additional request to $3,575,927.05. So one of my first questions is, why didn't the council know if Provost and Pritchard and Signagro were involved in the evaluation of this project, didn't make these findings in the first report?
So, Councilmember Lewis, the reason for that is that once Synagro was out there working, this was a finding as we were working out there. So we found that there was, that even the valve systems were not accessible, that the 2 feet approximately that were going to be removed with the original contract of 1,900 dry tons of biosolid removal was really not going to do a whole lot. So some of these findings or analysis happen as we're working, and this is what we evaluated with the contractor, our experts, Pro and Pritchard, and our city staff.
Okay, so when they made the initial evaluation with the proposal from October 4th, did they go out and do an examination to see what needed to be removed, or what was it based on for us to approve the money?
So they did an evaluation based on the fact that biosolids were present. Obviously, the channels that we were trying to remove these from were full, and we could tell there was a certain depth. But once you start removing, then you start seeing what's underneath.
So, Councilmember Lewis, if I could just chime in real quick. So, I actually went out there. I drove out there and saw these areas, and this is the best way I can explain it to you. Imagine 7 swimming pools that are about the size of the block that we're in right now on the street, and all you can see is black liquid. There's no way to tell how deep they are. You have no idea what's inside. There could be, a baseball. There could be an RV. There could be a building. To do the assessment process, and again, I only can explain this because I saw it with my own eyes, is what was accessible, I think, at the time for the contractor. I would have done the exact same thing. You stick a shovel in or you stick something in, you go, oh my gosh, how far down does this go? And I think it just shows kind of the level of neglect that we've seen that has turned into this situation. So
Yes,
my understanding is it's never been clean before.
Yeah, exactly. To add to Mayor Yanez, this is over decades of accumulation, so it had never been cleaned.
And I can appreciate both the mayor going out looking and what you're telling us today. But I would think that if, this is a really important project, and this means that if those channels are not cleaned out, our city could end up in really serious danger if we have heavy rains this year. So it would have seemed, really important for me that these companies that we're hiring and paying a lot of money to would have done something other than just maybe stick a shovel in and do a, really elementary evaluation.
So let me
back and let me finish.
I know. I can explain though.
I know I want to finish and then I'll let you talk.
Okay.
It just seems to me that something more in depth should have been done in the evaluation process initially, in order that this council could have made a reasonable decision about the money that's being asked now to be an increase in the budget for what needs to be done today. It's all water under the bridge. It needs to be done. But the bottom line is, and I'm scratching my head on this, the FYI budget for 23-24 for this particular budget item has $2,535,000 in it. This project comes to $3,575,927.05. So that leaves us a deficit of $1,040,927.05. So where is that money coming from?
So can I chime in now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to answer your original question, there were constraints put on the original project at $2 million for whatever reason. I wasn't involved in those. But as the consultant, Provost and Pritchard, and Synagro went out there, they realized, well, they didn't realize, they started seeing that removing a certain amount of biosolids would not actually create any efficiency within those channels. This was discovered as they started dredging not too long ago, and brought this to our attention, to the Public Works interim Public Works Director and myself, and thus brought this forward to you. As far as the budget line item, part of that is on-call services. So the professional services side of things also has some of our on-call stuff that's added into this. So as we looked at the budget, the amount that was relating to this project is stated there as an amendment. Now, the revenue that's generated from utility user fees that are for the purpose of collection and treatment of waste, of solid waste, that's what's utilized to repair, to create utility lines that actually move waste in an efficient way, so that we don't get to a point where capacity is overreached and you can't flush your toilet. So so answering the question of what happened originally, that's what happened. There were some constraints put on these companies. We realized that wouldn't solve the problem that's out there. So that's why we're bringing this. And then the other is the utility user fees that are charged throughout the history of utilities is used to pay for these things. And so there's an accumulation of cash for these purposes. These things are planned out over X amount of time. And if they're neglected since the beginning of the plant, you're going to have these one-time costs that are higher than if they were handled on a more consistent basis over the last 50 years.
That's, I had that answer from you already. I knew that part. The problem still remains, and it's in the report, is that the city staff set a budget of $2.1 million to work on this project. So this budget constraint came from staff. I don't know if it was the city manager or the Public Works with the city manager. The city manager has the final say on how much money is spent in this city. But the fact still remains, even though money is collected, by ratepayers, and this is why we have the $2.5 million in the account, we're still over $1 million in this budget for what is being requested today. And I still don't have an answer as to where this money is coming from.
From available cash that's in the fund, there's about $30 million of cash that's available in the fund.
Okay, so what's the fund number?
The fund number is 502.
But in the report, it says it's coming out of...
That's the expense, that's the appropriations line item. It comes out of that.
It needs to be clear to me in a report when there's over $3 million being asked for to pay for something, that I know exactly what budget items it's coming out of. The only thing I have here is a specific account number ending in 231, which says there's $2.5 million in there. Now, if it's coming out of other budget funds...
No, that's why it's being amended, to increase the appropriation so that it can come out of that line item, that expenditure line item.
Okay, maybe we're talking a different language. Because, again, in the report, under fiscal impact, it says that these funds are coming out of the indicated budget, 502-433-100-231. And when I go to that under Waste Management Professional Services, for the FYI 24 adoption, there's $2,535,000 in there.
As he explained, that's the expenditure.
So there's other professional services that are in that line item, on-call services. If we go to the budget, you can see in the narrative that it's broken out there. This was just to increase that professional services line item, which is where the expenditures will be recorded when we pay the invoice.
Okay. I still think it needs to be more specific so that I can understand it and the taxpayers can understand it, because as it's written now, it appears to me that we're over budget. So I think we keep hearing it from the public about transparency and the way things are written. It may make sense to you as the accountant for the city and perhaps some of other staff, but it needs to make sense to me and everybody else in the public.
So let me kind of.
No, it's okay. Mayor, I don't want you to explain the financial part. I'm
not
asking
going
the
to.
staff. Yeah,
I'm
so that I'm
Please
directing
don't
this
assume what
to
I'm going to
them.
say. Just let me know if you're done.
So, apparently this money is coming out of some other sources within the waste management treatment system. But as it is, and as I understand it right now, it appears that we're a bit over $1 million on this request. So that's my indication. We seem to have an awful lot of cost overruns since we've done our budget, and all the more reason why we should be having budget hearings in the city of Los Banos, so that big items like this can be questioned and people can have clarity, including the council, on what it is that the city is going to be doing and proposing to do. That's all that I have on that. Thank you for answering my questions.
So, Mr. Kuhn, I'll ask a couple questions. We've been collecting fees for 2 decades so that maintenance on these things was supposed to have happened, correct?
Right.
The taxpayers in this city have been paying so that we should have been dredging these things for the last 2 decades, is my understanding. Roughly.
Yeah, yes. Well, probably sooner rather than.
And money has accumulated in that account because for the past however many city managers and councils, it hasn't been getting done, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're addressing the problem.
Yes.
And it's going to be expensive because we're having to do 2 decades supposedly worth of work of cleaning these things, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, rather than, and I'm going to look at it from the taxpayer's point of view, if I pay my water bill and I want my toilet to flush, dredging these pools and cleaning this thing for the last 20 years should have been a priority. Yeah. So again, I applaud you and definitely our city manager for bringing this forward, because I want my toilet to flush and I want everybody else's too. So rather than, hey, what invoice or what check are we going to write it with? I think the bigger question is, why hasn't this been done in 2 decades?
Well, and I can't take credit for bringing that. Public Works is the department that brought this forward. I'm just here to manage where these monies go and how they get paid.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yep.
Rebuttal on that. This is not about accolades about our staff and what needed to be done or hasn't been done. It needs to be done. We're getting it done, and I appreciate the work moving forward to get it done. But, me as a council member, it needs to be clear as to how this money is being spent and where it's coming from. And yes, that is important. It's important to taxpayers to know how their money is being spent and where it's going. Not just the fact that a project needs to be done and it's critical, but how is it being spent and where is it going? Yes, we've been collecting this for quite a while. We've collected a lot of money for various things, for our police department under Measure H, various things that we collect funds for. But the taxpayers still need to know where the money's coming from and how it's being spent. Okay, so
I want to just add one little thing there. As a taxpayer, if I knew that my tax dollars were going to have this, for the funds to do that, why have we not done this in the past and taken care of this issue? Because we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in now. That's what I would if I was a, citizen, that's what I'd be worried about. Why has it come to this? Also, I lived in Hollister during the moratorium when Hollister was shut down on building homes because of the wastewater treatment plant. We're not getting clean and we're not big enough to handle the city. One of the reasons why we're trying to get some of this cleaned out also is for more development. Because if we can't store the water or the waste, we can't have development. So, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
All right. I want to move on to item 7D. Yeah, we can do the vote now. I'm sorry. Let's do the vote now. 7C. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Jones?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve City Council Resolution number 6718 as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Goni?
Second.
All right. Let's do a roll call vote.
Lambert? Begonia?
Yes.
Jones? Lewis? Yanis?
Yes. Motion passes. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to 7D. And Councilmember Lewis, questions. This is with Parks and Recreation Director.
Hi. Good evening, Councilmember Lewis. I'm available for questions.
Hold on, I'm trying to find my agenda here. Okay. Well, just for informational purposes, back in September on the 6th, this item was before us to approve the painting of the community center as a add-on to a contract that had already been approved. But it was taken off the agenda because it did not fit into the category of the 4 original buildings that were painted and could not be added on, so it was taken off the agenda. So now this project, we have received bids on this project, and it looks like it's going to come in at $52,900. And again, the only thing that I can do based on the budget item number that was indicated in the report, when I go to that budget item number under Recreation Department, it shows that in the fiscal year 23-24, we have $78,668. So I guess I'm concerned as to why we need a budget increase.
Yeah, absolutely. So the line item is the facility maintenance line item 205, and that line item encompasses more than just this project. This project was budgeted within it, about $46,000, and we're asking for additional funding because the remainder of what is available in that account is for our janitorial service at the community center. So that's approximately, I think it's just over $28,000 per year, but that's fully encumbered because we are paying that monthly, right? So that's where that extra money in that 205 is. They're paying for extra services beyond this project.
Okay, so again, is there any reason why that couldn't have been in the report? I mean, it would have saved me from asking this question if I had known that there were other encumbering costs in this budget for the fiscal year. It would have answered the question as to why, we have more than what we're spending.
Yeah, I certainly in the future I can include that sort of information. Traditionally, we don't include that, but I can definitely provide a description of the line item itself in future staff reports.
Okay. Yes, for me, I think it's appropriate because it, as I read this request here today on the agenda, I would have said no. We've got a sufficient amount of money in the account. There's no reason to even ask for an increase. So with that in mind, where is the increase going to come from?
So the account for recreation and 205 facility maintenance is a general fund account, so that'll come from the general fund reserve. And then I would also say that I can certainly include that information in the future as far as line item description, but it can be found in the budget book under narratives. Each line item is going to have a description of the narrative of what that line item is budgeted for. So in this case, if you were to look in the recreation section, it would list custodial services for the community center, but certainly something we can include in the future.
So when you say general fund reserve, is that a general fund within the recreation budget or the general fund for the city?
It would be the city general fund. That's what all of recreation is funded from on the 100-451-240 account.
Okay, yes, I think it would be appropriate to break it down so that, it's a clear picture of where all the funds are coming from.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 6719 as read.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Gonia.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Lambert, Begonia, Jones, Lewis, Yanis.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Move on to item F. For this, we'll go to Fire Chief Twala.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and
Yeah,
Councilperson Lewis. I'm ready for any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, I didn't have any questions on this. I guess I just wanted to bring it out to our staff, especially in my request for clarity on the budgets and where the monies are coming from. It was outlined in the fiscal impact, each of the areas of where these funds are going to be coming from to pay for the overtime. So I just wanted to congratulate our fire chief in making it clear as to where this money is coming from for the overtime. That was my only reason for pulling this forward. And that's no dispersion on the rest of our staff at all. I just think that we need to make sure that things are written more clearly so it's understandable for not only me as a council member, but for the public to decipher how the money is being spent and where it's coming from. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, just so people understand, we have the opportunity as council members to contact any of our staff prior to this meeting and ask these exact same questions to get clarity before a meeting. That's kind of the purpose there is to, again, if any of the members of the council want to ask the question here, obviously that's their right to do so. But for the sake of efficiency, we can also ask it offline. So just want to bring that up. All right. And then we're going to vote on the rest of the motions, or I'm sorry, rest of the consent agenda. Councilmember Jones?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, E, and F as submitted.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Lewis, second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, and for this one, Councilmember Lambert? Okay. You're stepping away. All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 8, public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action as described herein, court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. And so we'll move into item 8A, the public hearing to receive public comment and consideration of a conditional use permit number 2023-09 and categorical exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to section 15301 existing facilities to allow the use of a type 41 alcohol license for the on sale of beer and wine for a bona fide eating place, Biggins Texas Barbecue, located at 609 I Street. And for this, we'll go to Community and Economic Development Director Suzanne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So just a bit of background on this item. Back on November 8th, 2023, the Planning Commission recommended approval of conditional use permit 2023-09 to the Los Banos City Council. They held a public hearing that night. And previously, this restaurant, Biggins Texas Barbecue, operated at 639 9th Street with a Type 41 alcohol license. So the proposal before you tonight consists of a conditional use permit, which is needed for issuance of any ABC license. The request is for a Type 41. This is for the on sale of beer and wine only for an eating establishment. ABC licenses are regulated by the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, which is ABC. And the proposed operations, and well, they're the current operations, are Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is the location. 609 I Street is outlined, highlighted for you in yellow in the aerial. And just to give you perspective, where we are right now at City Hall, that's the red star on the aerial map. But 609 I Street is in close proximity to the southeast corner of 6th and I Street within our downtown. So according to CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, this project is categorically exempt per Article 19, Section 15301, in that it is an existing facility. Under the use permit analysis, which is done through the Los Banos Municipal Code, which provides specific findings for use permits in general, so it has specific criteria, and then has additional criteria for the on sale of alcohol, or sale period of alcohol, which those findings are contained within the staff report, and I will not go through them, but if you have any questions on them, I'd be happy to answer that. But it does meet all of the findings within the municipal code, and I do want to remind you that the issuing authority is the state of California, the Alcohol Beverage Control Department within the state. So the census tract that this restaurant is located is 22.01. It is bound by Badger Flat, West Pacheco, Mercy Springs, and West H Street and Wilmot area. And within that census tract, there are 12 existing restaurants that have 41 and 47 licenses. Those are on sale licenses. 41 is for beer and wine, and 47 is for general alcohol. This is a diagram of the floor plan and where the security cameras will be located. They're highlighted in yellow. So you can see it's near the front door at all, also 4 corners of the building. And this is a photo of the frontage of the location at 609 I Street. This is the inside of the premises. Also inside. So public hearing notices were published in the West Side Express and mailed to adjacent property owners on December 20th, 2023. And as of today's report, no comments have been received. So recommendation, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt resolution number 6717, finding the proposed project to be categorically exempt from CEQA, and approving conditional use permit number 2023-09 to allow for the on sale of beer and wine under a Type 41 alcohol license for Biggins Texas Barbecue located at 609 I Street. And that concludes my report.
Hang on 1 second.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you for that, Stacy. Questions from council, or actually, let me start with the public hearing. So we'll, on this, we will open the public hearing, receive public comment. So this time I'll open the public hearing.
Yes, to bring light of this beautiful building. All the ladies in Los Banos knew this. Sure, my name is Blanche George, downtown. But to bring a little light on this meeting, actually it's a historical building. All the ladies in town know this beautiful building. They got their fabulous dresses for special events at Natalie. I always remember Thelma, but it was Natalie and Thelma's dress shop. So having a little bit of wine is kind of really nice in this store. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I take this to make a comment, not about the liquor license?
It's public hearing about this item.
Darn it. I'll come back later.
Anyone else?
I'm Ann McCauley, Los Banos resident. I've been in this restaurant several times, and Mr. Lambert runs a really class act restaurant, and I think it would be great to have it here. Most places that have barbecue or different kinds of things like he offers would generally have wine or beer, so I would recommend it.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing. And questions or comments from council? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make City Council Resolution number, or approve City Council Resolution number 6717 as submitted.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Begonia.
Second the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councilmember Lewis, do you have a vote? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to, let's go get him. Before we start item 9, I just want to let you know, Councilmember Lambert, there was a recommendation that you sell dresses along with serving beverages. Just going to throw that out there. Might be a solid business model. Let's move on to item 9, consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 6722, approving the purchase and sale agreement for the residential real property owned by the city located at 1329 Frank Street in the city of Dos Palace. For this, we'll go to Community and Economic Development Director Susan Elms.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So just a bit of background on this particular item. The city did take possession of this property in 2009. And in March of 2022, the city declared the property surplus land and followed the California's state requirements and posted a notice of availability. And then followed up with a notice of compliance with the State Department of Housing and Community Development Department in 2023. We then listed the property for sale on MLS back in June, and we obtained an appraisal for the property. It did appraise at $340,000, and after being on the market for about 6 months, we have received an offer for $315,000. So staff is requesting that the City Council would accept that offer proposed by the buyer, and the fiscal impact would net the city approximately $283,000 after transactional expenses. There is a restrictive covenant that is required per the Surplus Land Act that needs to be noted. This is a covenant that will be recorded with the property. It requires that if 10 or more residential units are developed on the property, then not less than 15% of the total number of residential units developed on the property shall be sold or rented at affordable housing costs as required by the state. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Questions from council? Do I have a motion? Councilmember Jones.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to approve City Council Resolution number 6722 as submitted.
All right, thank you. And Councilmember Lambert?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, for item 10, I'm going to turn this over to our Mayor Pro Tem Lambert.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10, correct? Okay. Consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 6723, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional service agreement with Imagine Way More LLC for social media content services. And we'll now turn to Community Economic Development Director, Ms. Elms. Go.
Oh,
there it is.
As council members, are we supposed to let the public know why we're recusing ourselves from a project before we
I think
leave?
the mayor stated it at the last meeting.
Do we have to state it at each meeting when we leave?
Probably better form. I think the statement was that he had some relations to the applicant.
And the only reason I'm asking is that there may be people listening or here that weren't at the last meeting and they don't know why any
Yes,
one
and
particular person is
when he
leaving the
returns to the
dais.
room, we can ask him to make that statement.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll turn to Ms. Elms.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So back in November, this item was brought forward to the City Council, and I've been directed to bring this item back. So I will turn it over to the council.
Mr. Jones, do you have
Yeah. No, I was kind of caught off guard last meeting that this came up and was kind of blindsided by the statement that was made and didn't really know. And come to find out, it was a private business owner that hired the same company to make a video, and supposedly that song was selected by that business owner. So I don't know how we should be responsible for another business's that hires the same vendor, their video. And it was from a very well-known, the song in question, I think, was a very well-known artist. And anyways, it just seems pretty not fair that we're critiquing this one vendor over a derogatory word used in a song that they didn't select. It was the customer that selected it. So that's the clarification that I ended up getting from this vendor that we're going to hire. I do like this use of media outlet with the good videos, the good reels on different social media platforms. You have Facebook, you have Instagram. I don't even know if we even have a TikTok account, but the videos that are being put out there, regardless of Chinese spying, things like that, they're public information. So you can find them on Facebook, you can find them on Instagram. It's public information. So I can't imagine the videos that we put out there so exclusive that it's going to sink the city because the Chinese finds out about them. It's public anyways. So it almost seems like from some of the public, you're purposely trying to tank this because maybe you favor a newspaper instead. And it would be nice if we can get this information from a newspaper, but well, frankly, the newspaper hasn't been too ethical, hasn't posted any of our projects that we've gotten done. And it seems like it's been only a personal blog. So we as a city, we need to be able to get our information out there to our residents. And social media is the #1 tool right now. That's why the majority of the companies out there use social media. It's a powerful tool to get the message out, what we're trying to accomplish in the city, showcasing a lot of staff and a lot of projects that are getting done. I don't see it as anywhere near a political campaign platform. I was caught off guard on that one. But anyways, I'm for this. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say for it.
Ms. Lewis?
Thank you. Well, I looked at the contract. There's nothing different in it other than the date has changed from January 4th, which is tomorrow, until January 5th of 2025, a year's contract with an option of renewing it if the city desires to do so. As we know, well, I went online and to the Secretary of State. This company just received their license August 30th, 23 from the state of California. And it appears that, we've been doing some business with this company since August the 21st of 2001. But what I had asked for information to be provided as to how we've been paying this company. And from what I was told today and what I received via email is that the first, 5 payments to this company were all paid by checks through the city of Los Banos. But the payments from September 1st, from June 1st through December 7th of 23 were all paid on a city credit card. And so I know that having worked in government, sometimes if you have like an emergency or if you go to conferences or a need for a quick purchase is done, that there's a credit card at disposal for that. If the city is putting on an event and it has to pay for its employees to be at that event, a credit card is used. But I've never heard of a vendor, an outside, someone that you are trying to employ, be paid by credit card. Because that way it's really hard to determine how much has been paid to that person. So from the November 30th, there were 2 payments, one for $2,718, another one for $1,099, and then on December the 7th, there was a payment for $3,999. And so for the month of November, that was under $7,500, and for the month of December, that was under $7,500. But when I was told that I guess our bank credit card is with U.S. Bank, and when I looked at our check registry, for U.S. Bank, we had some $48,994.51 that was paid out for that credit card service. You know, this council is going to decide tonight what it wants to do. I looked on the website. Regardless of whether it's a private customer or not, it's still up. That video with the N-word in it, and I hope the newspaper quotes it right this time, the N-word is still up on that video. We just did a proclamation tonight for Martin Luther King, and it was a general proclamation. Doesn't get into the weeds of what Black people suffered during the time when they couldn't vote, when they were being beaten, when dogs were sicked on them, when they were called the N-word consistently. I had it done to myself when I visit my family in the South. So it's a sore spot for the people of my culture. So maybe it's not a sore spot for any of our council members up here, but it is for me. And as far as TikTok is concerned, you know, the younger generation, they don't really care. I mean, I have friends that are my son's age. They're in their 50s. And they've been told about TikTok and how the government is spying on you. The minute you get on there and you give your information, they know your age, they know what information to send to you to suck you in. But they're still spying on you. And if there are government agencies out there, the federal government and other states within the United States that have banned their employees for being on TikTok, why are we making an exception? Now, it could be in the contract, if you know this council approves it tonight, that TikTok is not one of the websites that would be used to advertise what we do in the city. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have all these other places where you can advertise or show what it is that you're going to do. So I'm, you know, yeah, it was a private video, and that private person could have requested it to be taken down or choose another song, but I still can't vote for a company that's going to have that word up on their website. It's an offensive word. It has been for years, and it still is. And I'm really appalled that we're okay with that. So that's kind of my take on this. Video number 9, still up on the website. And we're paying these bills by a credit card. I don't know why this particular account had to be paid by a credit card and it couldn't be paid by check, as we pay all the other vendors that we have on our check register. That's a mystery to me. And as far as me knowing all the ins and outs of what we could put on our credit cards and what we can't, I don't know that. I just know some general things. So that's my opinion on this. It stays the same as it did last time. I don't intend to vote for this. There were other, from the information we had before, I think there were other vendors out there that were less expensive than this particular company. And we also have a high school here in Los Banos, Pacheco High School. It's an opportunity for the city to work with our school system to allow these young people who have their green screens, they have their cameras, to come out and video and work with the city so that they can gain the experience of being videographers without having to pay someone, you know, $7,500 a month. It's a big savings to the city. So you have my opinion, and it has nothing to do with the newspaper or anything like that. I don't, I can't speak to the newspaper, but I can speak to what I see on this website, how we paid this person, and if there are other companies out there that could give a lesser bid, why didn't we go with them if it was like for like information? And did we consider perhaps working with our youth here in Los Banos at our high school who have the equipment that can do this for us? So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, regarding like maybe having interns, things like that. I mean, do you guys know for a fact that they have the equipment at the schools? Because the video, the cameras that they're using and the editing software and everything else is well over $10,000, and I don't think the schools have that. Plus, it might be a little inconvenient every time we have a project to have to wait for them to get out of school to come over and do it or get a permission slip signed. Then we have to hire somebody to teach them how to use the equipment because I don't think the school has a program for that. So I think we're back at square one. We're operating a professional business here, and I think we have to hire professionals. So I just don't see an internship working out.
Let's just go ahead and, I had a story to tell you because, but I'm going to pass on it just because now's not the time to actually say it. So, but right now, Ms. Lewis, I'll let you say it one more time, and then we're going to make a motion.
Yes, I do. I would like a rebuttal on that. And in the recital, I believe it is for this. In the contract.
This is not a public forum, sorry. What's it? What?
In the contract, I think it indicates that the city has the option to use other vendors as well. So it's not exclusive to just using this videography.
So I think we've all already heard enough about it. I think we just need to move forward. I myself, the accusations of not utilizing this company, I think are very low to me. And like I said, and I'll talk to you about it later, just me and yourself, the reason why.
I don't need an explanation later. I've given my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it.
That's
Thank you.
fine. So I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion. Mr. Begonia?
I'd like to make a motion to approve City Council Resolution number 6723.
Do I have a second?
Submitted.
Do I have a second? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem will second that.
I got a motion from Begonia and a second from Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's passed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I recuse myself from the last thing because Gabriel and his company do amazing work to the point that I hired him personally to do a project for me. And so that's why I hired him. And again, I didn't make any money off of it. So, I mean, I guess legally I didn't have to. However, I just felt it'd be a conflict I wanted to avoid anyway. So that's why I didn't want to vote on that matter. So, where are we at? 11. All right. Let's move on to item 11, consideration approval of City Council Resolution number 6724 to commit funding to renovate and equip the Police Department main building located at 945 Fifth Street and the Police Annex located at 535 G Street. And for this, we'll go to Interim Finance Director Kuhn.
So we started once we got close to the PD moving to the new PD, Police Department moving there. We had to plan and figure what we were going to do with the vacant buildings. So we started on this journey to create a Civic Center master plan. And part of the Civic Center master plan was to have an architect and a company come in and do a needs assessment of the spaces of 5 buildings, and it includes the City Hall, the PAL building, Annex, PD, and Old PD. So within that, then this is a very preliminary stage in all of this. There's still tons and tons of work to be done, meetings and you know, design concepts and whatnot. So in terms of commitments for the fund equity position, GASB 54, which is an accounting standard, it really requires, if you want to have a level of restriction of these funds for a specific purpose, other than it being outside by a third party like a bank, you commit these funds, and that's the most transparent way to kind of hold these funds away from any other purpose. Now, there's a level of restriction that's above, not above this, but just below us, where the city manager has the authority to assign these funds. But through discussions, we thought this would be the best way to ensure that there's available funding to take care of all of these buildings. Mostly it's annex relating and what we were going to do with that. So within that, we got preliminary costs that came in for the annex, and on the high end of it was about $7.5 million for doing a full renovation with upstairs and downstairs utilization of and a certain contingency relating to any type of remediation that has to be done. There's a safe in there. There's other things that, you know, we have to. So this is in no way at this point obligating these funds for any other purpose. This is strictly an earmarking of these funds that already exist. Now, over the last couple of years, the city has had surpluses, and in this year's no different, especially in the last 2 years, it'll be a pretty sizable increase in surplus. So within this, even with the $8 million that we're committing to these, we at no time come close to encroaching on our fund equity policy for fiscal stability, which is 30% of next year's operating costs. We would still have close between 70 and 80% of our next year's operating costs still as unassigned, unrestricted. So as we go through this, the money is there, and it's an obligation, but we haven't signed any contracts or anything. We've just seen what the eventual cost to do this, and in order to make sure that those buildings don't just sit there and rot, we decided that it would be good to come in front of the council and identify these funds for that specific purpose.
All right, thank you. And just to clarify, it's an earmark of funds
Yes.
and not a commitment of.
Right.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Questions from council? Councilmember Jones.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to approve City Council Resolution number 6724 as submitted.
Thank you. Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 12, councilmember request regarding an update for the Homekey program and motel purchase from Councilmember Lewis.
This is my request to have an update on the Homekey program and where it is at this particular time. I know that the I heard that the city had put in an application to receive funds from the state, and we did not make the first round of cuts to get any money from the state. But there is a pot of money left over for distribution for this program. So I was hoping that this council would vote to have this put on the agenda so that we can get a clear indication as to where we are in the cycle of perhaps getting any monies in the second round, or if we've been denied, or where we are as far as getting any of this grant money to move forward with the purchase of the motel for the turnkey program, Homekey program.
Okay. So you're requesting basically a motion to vote to add it to
the agenda.
The next agenda?
Yes.
The next agenda. Okay. All right. So a motion's been made by Councilmember Lewis. Do I have a second? Councilmember Lambert? Second. Okay. All right. And we'll do a roll call vote, I guess.
Lambert,
Yes.
Begonia, Jones, Lewis,
Yes.
Yanis.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to item 13. Yes. For the next agenda. Correct. And move on to item 13. Councilmember requests regarding an update for the scoring system for American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funding, and this is also Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's basically a request to bring this to an agenda so that the council can know where we are in the whole scheme of this process as far as the scoring system and what monies have been distributed, and do we have anything left over to be handed out for the ARPA funds.
All right, and my understanding at one of the previous meetings was we needed reports back from the people who accepted the funds in order for us to have that information.
Funds, right?
And
so
then
I think it's a
report-
little premature to bring it back on anytime soon.
Will they have to report back on how they spent the funding?
Well, they have to report. So if we bring
Yeah,
this
that-
on, we're just going to say, hey, we
That's
don't
a
have
different.
an update.
That's a different matter. I think what I had asked here was the scoring system on how the scoring happened for people to get the funding.
The scoring in which funding was dispersed to
Yes, for
applicants?
the ARPA applicants. Yes.
We talked about that too. And our finance director.
Do you have anything for us to?
Are you limiting your request to the small business program that the city actually promoted, or the entire ARPA program, which goes way beyond the small business program?
Well, I think the entire ARPA system, ARPA program would include money that the city was getting as well. Am I correct?
The small business program was funded by the ARPA funds, but there was a myriad of programs that the ARPA funds went to fund, such as employee salaries, so on and so forth. So I thought your request last week was centered on the small business program aspect of the ARPA program.
Okay. And that would be the case. When you said the entire ARPA funding,
Yeah.
I just said the city as an example because I know the city received ARPA funding for our employees for projects that we do
Right,
within
and
the
part of
city
that
and such
money
as
was
that.
moved to the small business program, I think $500,000 in conjunction with the RAD program.
Yes, we discontinued the RAD program.
So
But with that,
so your
that's when
request
the
is
process started for our small business communities
I
to
think
start
that-
applying for loans.
that
Am I
program
correct?
is in the middle of what's going on, and I think the funds have been dispersed. And I think there's funds currently being dispersed, but the cleanup, which is the applicants and the persons awarded funds, need to report back to the city as to how they expended those monies to see if they're turning from a loan to a grant. So the program's still in process. It hasn't been completed.
So,
And I don't know, that's Stacy's program, so I don't know, are you done awarding grants, loans to applicants?
Yes. And we're currently going through closeout right now.
Yes,
Of
of
each of
the
those
30 or 40 grants that were awarded, they're going through the closeout process, which is to determine whether or not they move from a loan to a grant, and that's in process right now.
okay, so was there a scoring system set up by which applicants can apply for the loan in order to qualify?
I think there were criteria, but there was not any competition in terms of someone scored a 10 and someone scored a 9. If you met the criteria, then you were entitled to or you were awarded a grant based on your need. But we've heard a lot about the scoring system, but I don't believe there ever was a scoring system. There was an individual evaluation of each application on an individual basis as to how COVID affected their business and what their application of the grant funds up to $25,000 was going to be used for. So there was no scoring competition between applicants asking for a grant.
And that may have been,
I think there's a gentleman that's been coming to the meetings characterizing it as a scoring system.
and it may have been, I don't know, it may have been a misunderstanding in terminology. I have no idea. I think what I'm trying to do is just have some sort of clarity for the public so it could put to rest any concerns about how the process happened. And so that's what I wanted to bring forward.
Should we do at the same time we bring it all back later once the final closeout's done? And you've gone through an audit to determine if it's a grant or a loan?
But isn't that like in 2025?
No, I think the closeout is happening now on all of the all of those grant funds.
So ARPA came to the city predicated on through the general revenues avenue for application. So the former finance director applied for this through that process, and they received that entitlement. That entitlement, even in the auditor's eyes, is like an unrestricted kind of fund for the purpose of the city to promote certain things and so forth. The RAD card program was one of those in the spending plan that was done at the very beginning of this whole process. I think a resolution was done. The RAD card didn't quite pan out the way that the city was seeing that happening, so we wanted to give the opportunity to give the remaining of this money to various businesses that had been impacted. So it's a part of ARPA. So the closeout is different than the closeout that you're thinking in terms of the Treasury, where you have to have identified all of your projects and spending by the end of 24 and then you have another 18 months after that to actually expend those. So we're going through the process for the entire ARPA and all the opportunities, and there'll be eventually a spending plan for the remaining of this, but this was already a part of that priority of that plan. It was just split from rad card to the small business thing. So what Council Member Jones is saying is that the closeout for this is coming after we receive all the information from the participants, look through that and ensure that it met, that they did what they said in their application, and then reporting with a final report of how that program was administered and you know what happened during that time. And that was a request I think that you made early on. I don't remember which month, which we said we would once we had all that information.
So what is the date for the closeout?
Well, again, it's dependent on when we receive all of our documentation back from the participants, and then they'll get to a point where we'll sit down and say, you know, please send your documentation, you know, within a certain amount of time. But we were giving them, you know, several months to get all of these documents, you know, to us, and in some cases there might have been some equipment or other things that they said they were going to order. So we'll send out a follow-up letter, I'm sure, soon for anybody that hasn't turned in their documentation.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that it's an open-ended date.
It is yeah, but it won't. I mean, probably within the next 45 days. You think? Yeah, that we'll have some absolute clarity to this, and then we'll be able to report back.
Yeah, and I think too that's just and thank you for bringing this up, because I think this is just a topic of discussion. We've heard in the public forum, you know, opinions of things and scoring and things like that. But I think the goal of the program is to give it to small businesses affected by COVID, and then give them the time they need to spend their money, right? So whatever that is, buying equipment, supply chain issues, you know, however they do it, I mean, that's the whole goal, right? And so I think that's the big thing is, you know, rather than, hey, you have a date of 2 weeks from tomorrow, I can't put in new carpet and paint 2 weeks from tomorrow. That's not feasible. So, but I think, I applaud you for bringing this forward, because we needed to have this discussion one way or the other of what this is, because I've heard football analogies and scoring and stuff that's just completely inaccurate that we needed the public to hear from this side of things. And again, in the public forum, we can't have that discussion. So again, thank you for bringing this forward.
And again, that is my purpose, because there is so much a talk about it, you know, here at council. I don't know what's, you know, out there on the web or what have you, but after, you know, a certain period of time, I think the city has to make a point where there has to be a closure on this matter, and have an accountability of how those funds have been spent. We can't just continue to let it roll on forever. And
We have to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it has.
we're required
and so
to do that.
that's why I'm hoping that sooner than later that that staff will make a recommendation, and that council will have a date certain that we need to close this stuff out and move forward. And 3 months, you know, I'm okay with that, but I think after that we really need to start closing things down and seeing what's happening with that money.
Well, and again, I look at it as we're trying to help the businesses that were affected.
Yeah, and we are, you know,
Right.
that's the whole thing. But, you know, help, you know, even with help, there has to be a closure at some point.
No, and I agree with it, but I'm just telling you, as a business owner, if you tell me I have 90 days and I need to buy something from another country that's not going to be made for 75 days, then that puts me in kind of a, you know, an issue. And so again, I don't know all the businesses that were receiving of funds or how that works, but I think that putting the goal first is really important. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
90 days and ask it again.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to item 14, advisement of public notices. We have 3 reports. Go to Community and Economic Development Director, Sue Zelms.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is site plan review and final development plan for 7th Street Apartments. This is near 7th Street and Wilmot, but the best way to describe this would be adjacent to the Alta Vista subdivision, if anyone knows where that's at. This would be like next to Head Start, in between Head Start and Alta Vista. And then the next item is for a conditional use permit for Victory Outreach to be located at 80 West G Street. And then the last item is a site plan review for Paradise Tomato Kitchen in their proposed expansion of 234,054 square feet at 149 West G Street. These public hearings will be held on Wednesday, January 10th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 15, City Manager Report.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 16, report update, Merced County Association of Governments, MCAG, Peninsula Clean Energy, PCE, Measure V Committee, and the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, and Las Banas Downtown Property and Business Improvement District, the LBP bid. And so we will start with Councilmember Lewis on the air quality control.
No additional reports tonight.
All right, thank you. And we'll go to Downtown Association.
We are actually getting ready for our annual casino night event. I don't have the dates yet. We believe we're going to be able to have it downtown. We're hoping for it in a newly renovated building. But next meeting we'll have all the details on it.
All right, thank you for that. Merced County Association of Governments, we actually got quite a bit done. There's some projects in the works with MCAG. You know, one of the things that we've had some interesting discussions over there and meeting with Director Serrato, who's the mayor of Merced, is the commitment of $1.5 million for transportation funds. And what we're looking at is to help commuters get over the hill. And so that would be from Merced to Las Banas to possibly Gilroy or San Jose. And so we're kind of in the initial discussion of what would that look like. And so I'm happy that, and kind of the initial thought process is possibly bus transit. However, we would do that to help commuters get over the hill. So I'm glad we're having that discussion. For PCE, really happy to report that more than 5,800 PCE customers received a $300 discount on their bill during Christmas time. And so that was an automatic discount from the funds that were committed to that. So I'm really happy about that. And PCE is working hard to develop more programs, especially over here in Las Banas. We have a new person liaison for them. So I'm excited to work with her. That's all I have on that. Measure V Committee, Las Banas for the first time in a long time has multiple projects that have been approved for upcoming fiscal years. So I think the norm has been one, maybe one at the most, and this fiscal year coming up we have 3. And so we're going to look at some solving some intersection problems up in Mercy Springs and Quail Dove area and other parts of town as well. So really happy about that. Move on to item 17, City Council Member reports. Start with Councilmember Begonia.
Just want to say about College Greens Park. It's not there right now. The playground. My niece and nephew were visiting from out of town, and every time we'd drive by, my girlfriend would tell them that your uncle took the park away. But I'm excited for seeing that park coming in. What it's going to mean to some people with special needs. So I look forward to seeing that.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Jones.
No report other than I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year's.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
No report, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lambert.
Just like Councilmember Jones said, hopefully this is going to be a great year and a Happy New Year to everyone.
And I would say ditto, but that's not cool enough. So yes, I just want to again wish everybody a Happy New Year. Thank you, staff, for everything you guys did last year. It was amazing. You know, the projects that we completed. I love getting emails and messages on social media about the parks. Absolutely love it. Being, you know, one of the people up here that I still have small kids at home, you know, they really appreciate it. So again, Joe, outstanding. to Chief Reyna and his new PD building, this is a great start. And so I'm really looking forward to what we're going to do in 2024. So with that, we will move into item 18, which is our closed session. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives, City Manager Panero, City Attorney Vaughn, Human Resource Director Melanie, Interim Finance Director Kuhn, Legal Counsel Tufo, Employee Organizations Los Banos Police Officers Association, LBPOA, Los Banos Police Sergeants Association, LBPSA, Los Banos Firefighters Association, LBFFA, Los Banos Police Dispatchers, Community Service Officers, Los Banos Public Employees Union, Public Works, and Local 1 AFS CME, and unrepresented miscellaneous employees. We'll be back with a report out. All right, we're back from closed session. There's no reportable action on the closed session item at this time. And we'll adjourn the city council meeting at 8:45.